So here, right out of the gate, we can see this is a sample dashboard that has integrated sales figures from online stores, website activity representative of on-site analytics, so page views, visits, page per visit, bounce rate, unique visitors, pages per visitor, banner ad activity, so really bought media, marketing effectiveness, what are the impressions, what are the click-throughs, page views, how many unique visitors is that driving, and ultimately how does that relate to order count. So in essence, a trended funnel. We can see how some of the paid searches and organic searches are playing out. So what are the search terms that people are using across different engines to get to my website? We can see email activity and say in the same light, what are the impressions, what are the pages, what are the click views. So right now I can see that I'm consolidating information from all these separate, disparate sources of information into a single dashboard that's available for me to start analyzing. I can filter the entire dashboard by different type of campaigns, so inorganic campaigns, organic campaigns. I can choose different time series analysis, so this is purely dependent on what your organization will be interested in seeing. In this case, I could filter the entire board by the last 6 months, last 12 months, last 18 months, or the last 3 months. I could set this up to be daily, weekly, monthly, however that works on your fiscal. So if I'm looking at different views, I can bring up the marketing effectiveness. So we said this basically acted as a trended funnel. So traditionally, when you're thinking about a funnel view, you see literally a funnel graph, and it kind of filters down. But as we talked about, it's a little bit more difficult to do with digital channels because you have so many different channels feeding that same information. What this stacked bar chart does is provide that same funnel experience, only now it provides those metrics in a better-to-see way. So immediately out of the gate, I can see that in July, and assuming prior, I wasn't really spending a lot on money, and I can quickly add a cost figure here. So I can say total cost, and I can add that as an element, and I can see how much was I paying. I can see that back in July I wasn't really paying much, but in August through December, really through June, I started spending more in my digital space. Excuse me. You can see that I really started spending more in the last quarter of 2009. And that ultimately gained more impressions, more page views, more clicks, more unique visitors. And I could start gauging the lift. I started spending less at the beginning of the year, however my page views didn't go down. So if we take that out, let's go ahead and remove total cost and get back to kind of the funnel as a whole. Now you can see that wasn't spending, wasn't getting a lot of impression, wasn't getting a lot of page views in July, started spending more, started getting more impressions and page views, and when I stopped spending, those page views stayed up. So again, we're starting to measure what was previously thought to be hard to measure, metrics like lift. And let's say we want to get an idea for bounce rate to get a feel for the quality of visits. So we can add bounce rate on here. Bounce rate is a percentage, so maybe that's a little bit hard to see. So we can quickly hit the line chart. And now the Microsoft tool, so this is part of where Performance Point comes into play. We saw how Performance Point allowed us to quickly see a dashboard and allow dashboard level filters. But now in the self-service arena, being able to do the analysis you want to do, Performance Point is intuitive enough to know what measures are being analyzed on screen, and it can quickly say, okay, bounce rate is a percentage, all these others are whole numbers, let's create a second axis, show the line. And inherently now I'm starting to see that, oh, there was a quality factor here in the sense that when I was in July, when I wasn't spending a lot of money to drive people to my website, the bounce rate was extremely high. So I wasn't getting quality visits, only 57%. So those people that were coming, bouncing out pretty quickly. As I started spending money, as I started marketing to people to drive them to my website, the quality of visit also improved. A bounce rate that goes down is a better quality of visit. So we know that impressions went up, we know page views went up, and we spent a lot of money in Q4 of 2009. Here's that lift factor. I stopped I didn't spend as much money in the beginning of 2010, but people had known and learned about my website. People were coming to my website. Page views are up, and the bounce rate was at a historic low for me, so I could start gauging the quality. Now, in the self-service arena, let's say I'm not really a graph and chart person. Maybe I'm just a grid person. So what Performance Point allows me to do is quickly change the views using this toolbar up here. I can see things in a graph, a chart, stacked bar, 100% stacked bar, line charts, pie charts, you name it. I can filter rows. I can drill up. I can drill down. So let's drill up to the different quarters. We know that quarter 4 was kind of where we spent the most money. So let's restrict this to Q4. And we can see that, let's drill back down into October, November, December. And, we can see that the order count was best in December. So within the same Performance Point tool set, I can open what's called the decomposition tree. This is something that's native to Microsoft that allows me to break down a single metric across different dimensions. So here it takes those 2,600 orders that I received in December via marketing, and it's immediately breaking them out by date. But let's say instead of date, I want to break these out by product. So I can break out the product categories. And I can see that the campaign I was running drove 1,800 accessories purchases, 1,500 bikes, about 1,000 clothing, and 150 components. I can break that out further just following the hierarchy that I've set up in my analysis services cube. Or if I didn't want to go down that hierarchy and I wanted to drill, say, to which campaigns themselves. So let's go to campaign category. There's no campaign at all. So this is an interesting piece of insight. It was no campaign at all that drove these purchases. So no campaign as a campaign sounds a little bit strange, but isn't that really just brand recognition? By the campaigns I ran prior to December, people knew that if they wanted to purchase bikes or bike accessories, they could come to my website. So 1,600 of these purchases were no campaign at all that were in essence driven by brand recognition. I drew 500 orders by the internet ads and bought media that I had. If I wanted to drill further into the types of internet and bought media campaigns I ran, I had promotions, I had sales, I had miscellaneous types, I had discount types. This is where we get into customizing the solution to fit your organization. We can break that out by geography. We can say which states actually made the most purchases. California, BC, England, the internet is of course global, so state and province may break a little bit in the international realm, but you can see that you can start getting a feel for the geography of where our customers are coming, where are they clicking from. And this is all one-stop shopping. I don't have to go to different tools. I don't have to open different reports. I don't have to visit different spreadsheets and ask the question and wait 2 days to get my answer. It's all right here. If I liked this cookie trail that I left myself, I can see the same for bikes by clicking on that. And it saves that same cookie trail, and I can see what are the categories that are driving bikes. Maybe I want to see internet ads broken out by that same type and geography. I want to see sale by that same geography. Here, sale type of campaigns worked in England. Promotions worked in California. Who would have known? So I'm starting to get these insights right out of the gate by the figures that have been provided for me. So that's an easy way to show how all these different metrics from all these different systems are being put together in a ready self-service mechanism. As well, using Performance Point, I can introduce the idea of mapping and geography. So we saw via that decomposition tree that we could see kind of a breakout of where are sales by state, by name. Well, what if I could see that in a map? Well, Performance Point in tandem with SQL Server 2008 R2 has mapping capabilities out of the box. So I'm able to use the site analytics information that I'm getting via IP range, who's coming to my website, what's the quality of that visit. I can start gauging over the last 12 months, let's even make that the last 18 months. So you can see that it's going back, Performance Point is going back to the data set, rerunning all these reports across the last 18 months, and here it reinforces the fact that we really didn't spend a whole lot of money in the earlier set of 2009. We started getting more digital, if you will, in later 2009, but we can see how that affected geography. So a good representation of this, excuse the scroll bars, you can see the bubbles represent visit quality and the heat represents the quality of bounce rate. We can go a little bit deeper into the state of Washington. So if I clicked on Washington, what it's doing is Performance Point is going out to Bing Maps. It is retrieving the map of the state of Washington. And on the backside, SQL Server is applying all the data to show a heat map based on the zip code in the state of Washington as to who is visiting my website most. And I can see that in the zip code of 98826, that drove 5,500 visits over the last 18 months at a pretty quality and high bounce rate. So now, if I'm thinking about it from a marketing perspective, I know that if I want to do a targeted, offline campaign, there are people in the state of Washington in this zip code that perhaps I want to go after that are going to make purchases of my product. The same way I could look at that in the inverse and say, we're not getting a lot of heat in the Bay Area, in Seattle, in the SeaTac area. So maybe we need to do a little bit better job of targeted marketing and see what do we need to do to entice that area to buy. So inherently, I'm starting to get analysis from data from multiple sources in ways I've never seen it before immediately, as opposed to waiting for several different ways to produce these reports. Same way with email. I can click that and I can see there's the same email marketing campaign. Now I can see the impressions and page views by different specific targeted channels. So if I'm the analyst and I'm in charge of analyzing specific channels, I can still use the same set of data, the same framework to do the analysis I need to do to support the questions that I have to answer. I can get sales by campaign on the overall. How many of these campaign types are driving visits to my website, and how are those converting to sales? If I wanted to look at the bought media that I'm using, I can get a top 10 list of the creative images themselves as to which images have been utilized the most across the last 18 months, how many impressions have been out there, how many clicks did they drive, and ultimately how many conversions did those clicks move. And I can click on one of those and open a separate report that's going to show me the image that I'm interested in, the creative image itself, as well as a site-by-site breakdown of which publisher, which site, what location will this particular image served to users. So if I saw this on a website, excuse me, what campaign was it run under? What sites was it placed on? Where were they placed on that sites, and how many impressions was it used given my bought media set or that campaign I ran? How many clicks and how many conversions did it run? So I can add different things to get, the cost per impression, the cost per click. What's the click-through rate? The thing about this view is it's great for this type of traditional image-based analysis of I can see an image, I can see next, I can see previous, I can see first, I can see last. The Microsoft Pivot Viewer allows you to do an image-based analysis that drives correlation. So within the same set of data, the same set of information, the same consolidated single version of the truth, and SharePoint in the same interface, I now have the ability to start doing correlative analysis with the images themselves. So what I'm looking at here are zoomed out versions of every creative image I have ran across 2009 and 2010.